Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here. In today's video, we'll be doing a review on Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. Now, Ys 9 Monstrum Nox is a fast-paced action RPG where you'll play as Adol Christin as he enters a mysterious prison city, Balduke. And he also gets transformed into a monstrum and is trapped within the city with the other monstrums until they can defeat the evil Monstrum Nox threatening the city and the world. And so while this is the 9th game in the Ys series, you don't really need to play any of the other games in the series in order to appreciate and enjoy this game. This was actually the first game I played in the series, and I think there's a couple of characters that you would have recognized from previous games if this wasn't the first game you were playing, but I didn't think it really made a big difference at all, not having played any of the other games in the past, as each game in the series tends to be more of a standalone game. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this game, you're transformed into a monstrum and trapped within the city. And so the game also works in almost some open world elements to it, where you start off with a small area of the city unlocked, but over time, you'll be able to unlock new abilities, almost like a Metroidvania in a sense, where you can jump higher, glide, and much more, allowing you access to more parts of the city. And as you fight off the Monstrum Nox, this also unlocks new areas to explore throughout the city as well. And so you aren't alone in this quest. You'll be joined by other monstrums throughout the city that are also trapped and fighting off the evil Monstrum Nox. And this is also an interesting dynamic within the city because you're treated almost like outcasts and rebels and enemies of the state within the city, but you're also trying to help it at the same time. And the game itself is broken up into different chapters, and as you progress through the game, each chapter really focuses around a different monstrum and their backstory and their motivations. And you'll also be able to add them to your team as a playable character throughout each chapter, continually adding a new monstrum. And so each one of these monstrums have their own play styles. It usually unlocks a unique ability as well, where you'll be able to further explore the city, as I mentioned, and unlock new areas. But this also ties into the combat as well. And so as I mentioned, it's fast-paced action combat. And so each one of your characters has their own unique set of abilities and skills that you'll be able to unleash during battle. These also are upgradable, and you can unlock new ones as you progress. And so as you use them throughout combat, they'll get more powerful and level up as well, which can become incredibly addicting. Now, one thing that I thought was cool is that you have full customization options for the controller mapping and layout. When I played this game, it was after recently beating Final Fantasy XVI, so I found myself really enjoying that layout for action RPGs, so I was able to fully adapt the controller and the button mapping to match that as well, which was great. It also almost has a feel to it like the Tales series, because you can switch between characters on the fly and create a party of multiple characters, each with their own skill sets and abilities, and you can switch between them throughout combat as well. And this is important because enemies will have specific weakness types, and each character has a specialization, and so you'll create unique combinations of battle parties to face off against enemies, and you'll need to strategically do this so you can take advantage of their weaknesses, because if you choose the wrong party type with the wrong ability set, it makes them much more challenging to defeat, as you'll do less damage. Now, the combat throughout the game was a lot of fun and was one of my favorite parts, but I will say that one of the elements that was a little bit weak for me was the story. As I mentioned, each chapter really digs into one of the characters and other monstrums, and so I liked unlocking their new abilities, but for the most part, this was a pretty weak point for me. But thankfully, the enjoyment of the exploration and the combat throughout the game kept me moving forward. But I will say the later chapters of the game is where the story really takes it to another level. There's lots of twists and turns at that point and really gets intriguing. And that helped me progress through the game as well. But it did take several chapters to really get things going. And so that's something to be aware of. I think it's worth pushing through and making it to the end of the game. but the initial story wasn't as intriguing to me as some other action RPGs. Now there are a ton of side quests to unlock and explore as you progress throughout the game, and it almost has some collect-a-thon elements to it as well, and as I mentioned, almost that open world feel where you have some different challenges along the way that you can try and complete, or collecting different things like different shards around the map, exploring new locations, and much more. And so it was fun trying to do all these, but I didn't really find myself finding a need to actually complete all of them to 100%. I did go through all of the side quests in the game, but when it came to unlocking every single percentage of the map, finding every little shard around the map, it just wasn't something that was compelling enough for me to complete as I played through the game. And it didn't really seem like there was going to be any major unlock bonuses to really make it worth it. And so I think you could probably just stick to the main storyline and some of the key side quests to get the most out of this game. And so it took me about 40 hours to complete all of these extras. But like I said, if you wanted to be a hardcore completionist and 100% everything, it'll probably take you an extra 10 or 15 hours beyond that. Overall though, I did enjoy this game. I thought it was a great entry to the series. It's a good starting point if this is your first game in the series as well. The early parts of the story weren't the best in my opinion, but the later chapters really make up for it, and there's a lot of great twists and turns. And so it's definitely worth finishing the game, even if it's maybe a little bit of a slower start in the storyline department throughout the beginning. The combat is really addicting and a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed the level up mechanics of the game and upgrading the skills. And so if you're looking for a solid action RPG, I would definitely recommend checking out Ys 9, and it's definitely worth adding to your collection. But how do you feel about Ys 9? Have you played this game yet? How do you feel like it stacks up to the other games in the series? Do you think this is a good starting point? Are there others I should play as well? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, consider becoming a patron of ours over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And another really cool way you can help support the channel is we actually partnered with a game store, Nutmeg Games. And so if you like board games, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic cards, and more, you can head to nutmeggames.com/nerdproblemsgaming, or use our promo code NERDPROBLEMSGAMING at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your order and help support the channel at the same time. So be sure to check that out as well. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.